Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today what we're going to talk about is what I believe provides you the most immersive experience you could possibly have in DCS, Digital Combat Simulator, or IL2 Sturmovik. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome back. So as I mentioned in my preamble, what we're going to be talking about today is what I believe it takes to give you the most immersive experience possible in DCS, which is a flight simulator, a combat flight simulator, or something like IL2, or X-Plane for that matter, any type of flight simulator. Now, you'll see online there's a lot of people that have like full sim pits these days, and before VR came out, that was probably the most immersive thing you could do. These people have just done amazing jobs creating these very, very realistic sim pits, I guess if you want to call them, that basically replicate the cockpit of an F-18 or 14 or A-10 or whatever it is. Like I said, with VR, you really don't need that anymore, but I'm going to talk about the type of system that I have for immersion. Like I said, I believe it to be the most immersive type of system you can get. I will say this is not a budget build. You know, obviously you can scale it down to give yourself the same type of experience, but you know, one thing to keep in mind is that what I'm showing you definitely, you know, it has a budget to it. It's just, I guess, a bigger budget than a smaller budget. Anyways, what we're going to talk about is the PC that you need to run all this, HOTAS, which is your throttle joystick controller, rudder pedals, a sim seat, like a rumble seat, a jet seat, and finally the VR that kind of ties it all together. And so that's basically what we're going to be looking at. So let's get started. So let's start with my PC. I'm running a Core i7-8700 with a clock speed of 3.7 gigahertz. It's got 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, Windows 10 Pro, and the graphics card is a RTX 2080 Ti. So moving on to my HOTAS, it's actually, there's two parts of the HOTAS. There's basically the joystick, and there is the throttle assembly. I'm using the Thrustmaster Warthog for my HOTAS. I did a lot of research before I got this, and really the reviews of it were overwhelmingly positive. I realize that there's a few other ones out there now, like the Virpil is one, for example. But I think that, you know, once you get into this range of HOTAS, they're all pretty much going to be very, very similar. I've been using this one about a year, and I love it. Now, a couple of the, at least one modification I've done to it is I've taken out the indent here and put in a 3D printed one. So basically where I would hit my afterburners, there's a slight pause there, and then you push it and it goes into afterburner, and that basically controls the afterburners on the plane. The thing about this HOTAS is everything is really solid. Like you can even hear from the switches, they're all completely solid. They feel good. You know, it's basically heavy, pretty heavy duty. There's lots of different switches. I think like 18 different switches that you can set up on it, so you can pretty much map absolutely everything you want. And then you can also run this as a split throttle, so it can become part, and you can use it as two separate throttles. For some of my helicopter sims, for example, what I'll do is I'll set this up as the one of these, or so actually I'll use this as the throttle, and then one of these as a collective. But you can actually set one up for each engine if you want to. If you want to get into that level of detail. So that is the throttle part of the HOTAS. Now moving over here, what we have is the, if I can just back up a bit, we have the actual joystick. And so this joystick, once again, made by Thrustmaster. They're basically purchased a kit. You'll notice that I've got an extension here, and I believe that is a, I want to say like 10 centimeters, maybe 10 centimeter. I can't remember exactly what it is. I 3D printed that myself as well. But what it does is it just gives it a little bit more, when you're moving it, it means that it's a little bit more precise in your movements and mimics, you know, realism a little bit more. Once again, the switches are super solid. They feel good. There's a two-stage indent for the trigger. This is actually a 4-way switch. Switch, and there's another switch down here, and then you can set this up as well. So once again, totally high end, really nice. I'll have this for as long as it'll probably outlast me. That's all I can say. Now you'll also notice here I've got a mounted on what's called a Fox mount. And with the Fox mount, basically it's fully adjustable. You'll see that there's little levers here, so I can actually disconnect it and move it to different places on my desk. Normally what I do is I fly with it actually between my legs. So I use it as a center mounted joystick. So when I'm not using it, I'll push it off to the side, but when I am using it, I'll just pop this switch over and move it down. And like I said, what's nice about it is it's fully adjustable, so you can basically bring this up and down. And if we go back over here to the throttle, you'll see that I have the same type of setting on my throttle. So for my rudder pedals, I'm using the MFG Crosswinds, and these I ordered from Europe somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where, but I got them from Europe. Did do quite a bit of research on rudder pedals. Previous to this, I had a fairly inexpensive pair that I'd bought on eBay, and they just weren't very accurate. They had potentiometers in them. Those potentiometers had the ability to get dirty, and you just couldn't get really good precise movements. So I did my research and I wound up picking these. Now these ones just have all sorts of adjustments to them. You can actually adjust the pedals, the angle of the pedals. You can make them go in and out, tension adjustments. And as you can see here, when I put my feet on them, they just move nice and smooth. They're beautiful. And then they've got toe brakes, which I like. There was a few other pair that didn't have toe brakes, but these ones do have the toe brakes, and they work really nicely. And especially if you're going to start doing simming in something like a helicopter where you need to have fairly precise movement for your rudder pedals, these ones are the ones that I thoroughly recommend. So moving on to the jet seat. Basically the way that this jet seat works is there's actually a number of different, I guess I don't even know what they're called. They're kind of like blocks. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And what they do is they will vibrate according to the intensity of what you're doing. So for example, when you're in your, if you're flying the F-18, for example, as you put the flaps down, you'll feel it rumble. When you're driving, when you're taxiing, for example, you'll feel the bumps in the runway. When you're flying, if you get close to a stall, it'll actually move. So you get this feedback, and with the VR, it just completely makes it immersive. So all of a sudden, you go from being in a very environment that's very static to an environment that actually brings feelings to what you're doing. And feelings, is that the right word? I'm trying to think what exactly that right word is, but you actually feel what's going on around you. So this, I actually ordered this from Russia, from a shop named Andre's shop. I'm going to put links to everything below so that you can see the links and you can check it out if you want to. The other thing I will mention, sorry I've gotten this far in, that everything I'm showing you right now, I did the research for and I paid for. I wasn't given any of this stuff. So everything you see is really my opinion and on how that stuff should be. All right, so moving on to the final thing, which basically adds to this completely, which is the VR. So this is actually the piece de resistance, I guess, the final piece to actually give that total feeling of immersion, and this is the VR headset. And this is the Valve Index, I guess, by Valve. As of 2020, one of the better VR headsets that you can actually get. I love it because of everything that it brings to the table. It's you can tilt it up and down. It's got an adjustment for IPD, which is for your eyes. You can increase this part of it. Obviously the headphones. It's just a fantastic VR headset. So this is something that I completely recommend. And that's really it. That pretty much covers all of these tools that you would use for that completely immersive experience. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Obviously, if you got this part, please subscribe, please like. I do post videos on a weekly basis around VR technology, sim racing, sim flying simulators, mostly DCS. And so if that's something that you like to see, please let me know. And until next week, we'll see you later. Have a great day.